You know, a few of you guys asked me to cover the Rocky franchise, and I've been getting this question for quite a while. Okay, not all at once, like maybe over the past like year and a half. And one of my show business partners asked me to compare all of the fighters. I think this would be interesting, and use like true analytical and a true boxing analytical approach, right? As an analyst, um, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. So, let's just get started. And plus, I have uh ShowBizz and the Pips that I'm going to play at the end, singing "Take It Back." Do 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 do. It's a throwback video, but I'll play it at the end for anybody who wants to see my throwback video. But let's start here. We're going to start from Rocky 5 back. I'm not going to do the Creed franchise. I'm not going to do anything after Rocky 5. Pretty much the iconic characters. And you guys let me know if you want to see me do like, the other guys like Antonio Tarver. I'm not sure what his name was. But let's start with Rocky 5. Okay. And I'm going to come from a boxing analyst approach. I had to bring up the notes here a little bit. But Tommy the Machine Gun, okay. Rocky 5 gets a bad rap, but we're not going to talk about the movie, but we're going to talk about the fighters and how they kind of compare with each other. So Tommy the Machine Gun, he has a great amateur background of 45-1. All right. His pro record is, let's see, is 23-1. So he has 23 wins, 23 by KO, and 1 loss. And I'm not sure what the 1 loss is. Is it Rocky? I mean, do they count that as a loss? I mean, it was a street fight. I hope they don't count that as the loss. But it could be. Now, Tommy the Machine Gun, I think he went 8-0 before Rocky took him on. He was like Rocky, right? He was just a street brawler. He didn't really, he needed to be shined up, polished up a bit. And then Rocky Balboa kind of took him under his wing, gave him some fights, was working on his skills, all those things, working him up slowly. Okay. In comparison, kind of like Roy Jones Jr. father, right? When Roy came out the Olympics, Roy Jones Jr. father was working him very slowly, right? And Roy Jones like, forget this, man. It's time for a title shot. That is very much Tommy the Machine Gun. He ended up leaving Rocky Balboa for like that Don King character so he could get the title fight, which he said he was ready for a title. Rocky Balboa knew that he was ready for a title as a fighter, but not so much so upstairs. He wasn't mature enough. Needless to say, he beat the champion, who was Union Kane. What's his name? Union Citizen Kane. The dude can fight. But he was a paper champion, right? So Tommy the Machine Gun, great left hand, big kid. Definitely, he's Tommy the Duke Morrison, right? We all know, fantastic fighter back in the 90s in real life. But great left hook, fought very similar to Rocky Balboa, except for he was naturally bigger and he was a better athlete. He was better. All right. But like Adrian said, he didn't have the heart of Rocky.
But he's not you. He doesn't have your heart.
All right. So that was the difference. How would I rate him? I rate him pretty high. Okay. Though Union Kane was a paper champion, that's the knock. Everybody else he was fighting, who? He was fighting the heavyweight division when it was a weak division, something like the Klitschko's, that era, or when Larry Holmes was fighting. It was right after the badasses. Klitschko's, they fought after the Mike Tyson, the Lennox Lewis's, the Evander Holyfields, when things just kind of got a little bit weaker. That's Tommy the Machine Gun, when Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and George Foreman and those boys left. Larry Holmes kind of took over and the heavyweight division was a little bit weaker. That's when Tommy Machine Gun came in. So he never beat Rocky Balboa for the title. Rocky Balboa vacated the title. That's how Union Kane got the title. So he was a paper champion. But other than that, I mean, man, 45-1 amateur background, had great tools, went to the body well, good head movement. Rocky Balboa was kind of training him to be a better version of himself. I rate Tommy the Machine Gun pretty high. So let's go to after Tommy the Machine Gun, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up all up together at the end. But let's see Ivan Drago. That's Rocky 4. So let's check out Ivan Drago. Look at his record. See what he was about. Now, we know Ivan Drago was a great Olympian. He got the Olympic gold medal, right, from Russia. So his as an amateur, amazing. 31 wins, 31 KOs. They all got crazy resumes. 31 wins, 31 KOs, and one loss. That one loss being to Rocky Balboa. How tall was he? What was his reach? I'm 6'5". God. You know, I mean, Dolph Lundgren, I mean, he's a big kid. Now, look, Ivan Drago, how I rate him. Ivan Drago, technique, probably the best technical fighter out of all of them, including Apollo Creed. I mean, defense, footwork, great jab, 1-2, good combinations, punching power out this world, great chin, great heart. Don't forget, he was trading hearts and shins with Rocky Balboa in the fourth, in Rocky 4. I think they almost went 15 rounds or something like that, right? Was it a 15-round fight? I know Rocky knocked him out in a fashion that Rocky Marciano knocked out Joe Louis, you know, hitting Ivan Drago, him bouncing off the bottom rope. He kind of slid outside the ring a little bit, almost exactly like Joe Louis from Rocky Marciano. I think they kind of did that on purpose. But the thing about Drago is this. His claim to fame was defeating and murdering, killing Apollo Creed in the ring. Okay, throw in the damn towel. He killed the legend, the icon, Apollo Creed. So that was his claim to fame. People were kind of hearing about him. He has these pro fights, but he didn't really leave Russia. He was just fighting at home. Great amateur background, but doping too. So his claim to fame was being an over-the-hill guy. Okay, over-the-hill legend. And, you know, he was doping. Okay, and he didn't fight outside of Russia. He came over to the States in an exhibition where he kills Apollo Creed, and then he goes back home where he can get away with the doping, right? And look, if anybody can, just using my boxing analysis, all right, that we apply every day on this channel, if you have a problem with Canelo Alvarez, you certainly have a problem with Ivan Drago, okay? Though technically sound, and I can't take that away from him, power and all those things, he's a cheat. He's a cheat. It is what it is. He's a cheat. He never fought outside of home unless it was, you know, he did his thing in the Olympics, but as a pro, and he had that exhibition, he traveled over to the States for a brief second and he came back over, and that's it. All right. So it's hard for me to rate him. I'm going to have to rate Drago. If I'm using what we use, he was fighting nobodies, finally fight Rocky Balboa and lose, and he was doping. You feel what I'm saying? And Rocky Balboa was over the hill. I think he's a cherry picking cheat. It is what it is. Overrated. He's an overrated cherry picking cheat, but technically amazing and very skilled, and you can't take that from him. But I'm going to have to rate him lower than Tommy the Machine Gun. Okay, for that reason. Now, if I'm going to use what you guys asked me to use, my boxing analysis, I'm going to have to rate him that way. Now, let's go to Rocky 3, Clubber Lang. I know everybody waiting for him. 5'11". What a slugger. What a monster. Clubber Lang. 5'11", from fighting out of Chicago. 28 wins, 1 loss. All 28 wins by KO. Now, he was a combination of Sonny Liston, and George Foreman, you know, they said, and Larry Holmes. In what way? The base, his storyline. Okay. Now look, this is how I feel about Clubber Lang. I gotta rate him high. Technically, extremely flawed, horrific, kind of like a Rolly Romero. hit the Tyson Bell. In a sense that he has zero defense. He swung wide, but when he hits you, he hurts you. He's a wrecking machine. Okay. But God, was he horrific as far as boxing abilities. He sucked, okay? But he was a savage. But here's what you can give him. He was ranked number 1. When Rocky Balboa was taking hand-picked fighters. That's what Mickey said himself. He hand-picked them.
I am ranked number 1. 1! That means I'm the best. But this bum been taking the easy matches, fighting other bums.
He said you weren't hungry since you won that title from Apollo Creed. From then on, he was handpicked. Like he said, got his face all beautified and all that. You remember Rocky. He wasn't training hard like he used to. He was in his head. They were just letting him build up his resume. All right. Got to the money, got to the bag, just the hype. He became the hype. While Clubber Lang was the truth. He was beating all of the contenders that Rocky Balboa wasn't fighting. And Clubber Lang became the #1 contender, regardless of how bad his fighting style was. You got to give him this. He knocked out everybody, but his resume was the toughest. Out of everybody we named so far, Tommy the Machine Gun, Ivan Drago, you must say Clubber Lang resume was the roughest, was the toughest. If you look at the story, because Ivan Drago was like, hey, we want to show you what Team Drago, we want to show you what our fighter can do against your Popeye, right? Like, against, no. They said Drago was like your Popeye. He eats his spinach, whatever. But against Rocky Balboa, against your Rocky Balboa, your champion, but he was over the hill. So it was more so like a exhibition, like just building a hype around Drago. But Clubber Lang got his off the mud. You got to give it to him. He had the toughest resume, though his boxing style was that of a crude, savage, wild man with no defense whatsoever. And, he beat Rocky, okay, but he beat a washed up Rocky when Apollo Creed got Rocky back together and changed his style. All right. Sort of like Anthony Joshua when he got dribbled off the canvas against Andy Ruiz. Anthony Joshua coming back with a new style and outboxed Andy Ruiz for 12 straight. All right, Andy Ruiz coming back 300 and 400 pounds, whatever he was, just, out of shape. But still, if I'm going to compare something, right now, that's the first one I'm grasping at. And he beat Clubber Lang that way. You got to give the love to Rocky Balboa. Clubber Lang wasn't expecting that Rocky, right? He wasn't preparing for that Rocky whatsoever. I remember when Danny Swift Garcia fought Sean Porter. He was like, I was expecting the football player. Showtime Sean Porter boxed more than he expected. He was like, if I knew he was going to fight like that, I would have had a totally different game plan. And that's how Showtime Sean Porter kind of squeaked out that fight. But with that said, you got to rate Clubber Lang high. You got to rate him higher than Drago because of that. He got his out the mud for real. Though Drago is a way better technical fighter than Clubber Lang. If I'm going to use my boxing analysis like you guys want me to, I'm going to have to say Clubber Lang is even ranked higher than Tommy Gunn due to when Clubber Lang fought. All right. And he wanted some of Apollo Creed too. He wanted some of Apollo Creed. I liked his mentality. He trained extremely hard. And that's where I put Clubber Lang. Let's look at Rocky 2. So we got to look at Apollo Creed. Hold on real quick. See if we can find Apollo Creed. And hopefully I'm going to have to be unbiased with Apollo Creed and with the rest of them. So Apollo Creed, 47 wins, 46 by KO, and 1 loss. Now, he knocked out everybody too, but the one that he didn't knock out was Rocky. Don't forget, he beat Rocky in Rocky 1. He beat him, which I saw that fight again. That was close, man. I know it was a split decision, but it looked like Rocky kind of they could have robbed Rocky on that one. Tyson Bell. But with that said, Apollo Creed did beat him officially. He got the 1 loss in that he got knocked out. Okay, that second fight when it was pretty much out of exhaustion. Okay, him and Rocky falls down. Rocky has just more in him to get up. Apollo Creed, though, didn't he break his rib early in the fight? Or Rocky Balboa breaks Apollo Creed's rib early in the fight. So Apollo was fighting with 1 arm pretty much that whole second fight and still fought him down to the wire. So 47 wins, 46 by KOs, 1 loss. Now his resume is the best. All right. So not only did he beat the best to become champion, but he reigned as champion. Everyone knew that he was the best fighter. He reigned as champion for a long time. Nobody was beating Creed. He ran out of competition. That's how he even fought Rocky. He beat everybody easily. He knocked them all out. So they had to find somebody and try to hype up the name, try to market it. He needed a fight. He had a fight date. So somebody had to fill in, and that's how they got Rocky Balboa, right? So Apollo Creed is obviously the best one. The thing about Apollo, though, is when he took on Rocky, he was just getting over the hill. He was becoming an over the hill fighter. And when he became an over the hill fighter, he kind of dropped off. Why? He wasn't as technically sound as, let's say, a Drago. He relied a lot on his reflexes and natural abilities, his natural gifts, kind of like Roy Jones, Muhammad Ali, right? So his reflexes, leaning straight back, doing those things. If you look at when he was killed in that exhibition bout against Drago, you can see when he slipped and all those things, those natural abilities were gone. All right. And he needed that bad. That's why that was just a horrible matchup. So when you look at him against Rocky Balboa and those fights being closer, he just didn't quite have it. Father Time beat him. Okay. And he dropped right off, just like Roy Jones Jr. dropped right off. He did not do what Muhammad Ali did. When Muhammad Ali's legs went, he started adjusting, throwing his hands a little bit differently, planting his feet and throwing his hands differently, like he was doing against Frazier, like he was doing with George Foreman, the rope-a-dope, those things. You know, he wasn't quite the prime Muhammad Ali, but he adjusted. Apollo Creed didn't adjust as well. Okay. Rocky Balboa putting the pressure on him, just getting over the hill. He caught the good Apollo Creed, lost the first time, beat him the second time. But I do rate Apollo Creed over Clubber Lang as a reigning champion. Clubber Lang beat Rocky. He didn't reign. He lost his belt immediately, right? Didn't have a good gas tank. He lost within 3 rounds against Rocky. So Apollo Creed, even the second fight with him having a broke rib, he continued on and almost, Rocky had to get off the canvas to beat him, okay? Hit the Tyson bell. Got to give Apollo Creed. I got to rate him over the rest. Now, let's look at Rocky Balboa. Going all the way up to Rocky 1, go to Rocky Balboa. I hope you guys enjoy what we're doing here. You asked for it. All right, so here we go. Rocky Balboa. Where is his record? They don't even have his record. They just got Sexy Sly, huh? Sexy Sylvester Stallone. Let me see if I can find his record real quick. Here's his record here. 81 total fights. So he got the most fights. 57 wins, 51 by KO, 23 losses. 1 draw. He has the worst record. Okay. He's like the Cinderella man. Okay. Fights something like Frazier, Rocky Marciano, slugger, pressure fighter, right? Just like Apollo Creed said, I don't know how you taking those punches, Mamma Mia, right? Now, Southpaw, he came out orthodox against Apollo Creed the second fight. That's right. Now, here's the thing about Rocky Balboa. Hit like a mule kick, okay? Breaking Apollo Creed's rib, knocking out Apollo Creed, knockout Clubber Lang. Even the first fight, he slugged with Clubber Lang a bit. Knocking out Drago. Okay, the guy can hit. Chin, heart, unlimited. Okay, ridiculous. But here's what I can say about his record. Now, he got 23 losses. How many losses did we see? We see him lose to Clubber Lang. We see him lose to Apollo Creed. And that's about it, right? That's it. That's pretty much it. And yeah, because let me see, the 5th, he was already retired when he fought Tommy Gunn. So that's about it. Now, the losses really came early in his career. When he was a club fighter, he didn't have Mick to train him. So he trained himself, kind of how Tommy Machine Gun trained himself. He trained himself. And once he got some good training, when he got Mick, one of the greatest fighters. So you have to kind of rate Rocky Balboa from Mick on. In doing that, I rate him slightly below Apollo Creed because his championship reign wasn't as long and it wasn't as dominant. But he's definitely over Tommy Machine Gun. He's definitely over Clubber Lang because he reigned as a champion and he beat Clubber Lang. He's definitely over Drago, but he's not over Creed. Here's another thing. If you look at the Creed movies, the Creed 1 movie, Apollo Creed beat him twice. That third fight, that Rocky 3, they fought their third fight just between them two. And and Apollo Creed won, according to Rocky Balboa.
Who won the third fight? He did.
So Rocky, though they're officially they're 1-1. He's 1-1 with Apollo Creed. Rocky was closer to his prime, but not all the way in his prime. All right, he was getting there. You can argue that he was past his prime a bit against Clubber Lang, but Rocky did his thing. I must say, if I were to rate them all, I have Apollo Creed number 1, Rocky Balboa number 2, Clubber Lang number 3, Tommy the Machine Gun number 4, and Ivan Drago number 5. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Where do you rate them? I hope you guys like this. And I want ShowBizz and the Pips to take it away. ShowBizz the adult. I'm out. Huh.
Take it back. Do. Take it back. Take it back. Do. Take it back. Now I've been told by do people and they said take it back. Do, take it back like before. Now I don't call this a reason, I just call it believing in myself. Take it back. Do, take it back.